Andhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Nitinamine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we have Janmashtami coming up tomorrow. So reach that close. And today's class is in continuation with what we've been doing. Anybody remembers what we have discussed in the first class and the last class yesterday? Those of you who have attended anything, any trace? Hari?
We should try and the pastime of Shamsundar. Disciples of Prabhupada used to say that we will try. How much we are trying.
Okay.
That was the main class, was around trying our best to please the spiritual master.
Anything else? Anything else?
And you had shared a pastime of Shamsundar Prabhu.
No, forget about Shamsundar.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. In yesterday's class, we discussed about when Devaki was getting married and Kamsa went to drop, and all of a sudden he got that that Bhavishwani type, like he will be killed by 8 sons, and all the pastime of the Lord, and how Nand Maharaj tried to save Devaki and giving all the options to the Kamsa.
Where is Nanda Maharaj? Okay, Mataji.
The first class on Janmashtami series talked about the demigods approaching Supreme Lord for protection, and Brahma conveying to them, he excluded him, and how Brahma Vimohana Lila happened because of that. That was one thing that remained with me.
Yeah, demigods approached Brahma. They didn't approach Supreme Lord.
They approached Brahma, and then Brahma went to the Milky Ocean and he offered prayers, and then the Lord gave him the instructions, and then he conveyed it to the demigods. When Lord Brahma conveyed it to the demigods, he said, it's for all of you. He excluded Brahma from that instruction, and that's why the Brahma Vimohana Lila happened.
Okay.
And then yesterday's class, Prabhu narrated the wedding of Devaki and Vasudeva, and how Kamsa was.
That's the story. What is the philosophy?
What is the philosophy?
Yeah, Devaki was getting married to Vasudeva. Kamsa was the charioteer, but what happened? What was discussed after that?
I didn't get it.
I remember from first class, there was 9th canto towards the end, there were 2 questions that were asked by Maharaj. No, Sukadeva was explaining 2 verses, the entire summary. And then Parikshit Maharaj asked to elaborate that further in the first few verses.
Okay. Anybody online? Bhagavad Tattva, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. He is one of the, he is a demigod, Prabhu, and he was one of the Manu in the previous incarnation.
One of the Manus in the previous incarnation. Who? Akilashray, bro. Where is he?
Yes, Prabhu. I didn't attend the full class yesterday.
Huh?
I didn't attend the class, Prabhu. Is it about yesterday's class?
It's not just about yesterday, in the last class.
Oh,
Okay, so Kirti, bro.
Prabhuji, I attended first class, and in that one, actually the discussion gets initiated by Bhudevi. She's not able to tolerate the activities of the miscreants on earth. And then she goes to, along with the Devatas, goes to Brahma asking for a solution. And then they all go to the milk ocean, like Palni Mataji described.
Yeah. Anything else? Okay. So Devi Mataji.
No, Prabhu. I do not remember.
Okay. Okay. So basically, how do we celebrate Janmashtami? Of course, Janmashtami is a festival where we are all engaged in doing some activities. Is it just another day where some rituals need to be performed? And, usually we have this 30 days activities that we are doing. Even last year also we had. Is it that life becomes different after Janmashtami festival? And then we go back to our normal life, so to say, whatever that normal life was, because 30 days we've been doing now, Janmashtami is over, it's over. So this is something called a festival conscious person. Janmashtami comes, so I just read, I just prepared, I just did something. Whatever activities you asked me to do, I did it, and then we forget about it. Actual Janmashtami is the appearance of the Lord in our heart. And the first class that we had, I was telling how we should learn from the qualities of Parikshit Maharaj, what it requires. How does the Lord manifest in our heart? What are some of the important prerequisites to have for the Lord to manifest in our heart? Mind you, Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, in the 9th chapter, 11th verse, he says, Avajananti mam modha, manusim tanumashritam, param bhavam majananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. People really don't understand when Krishna appears like a human being. Avajananti mam mudha manusim tanumashritam. It appears as if the Lord is also appearing, like we had an activity yesterday which says throw a party. So also we celebrate our birthdays, we have a party. We can have a party for Lord's birthday as well. But to understand the appearance of the Lord and his activities, one has to see at least how it is described in Śrīmad Bhagavatam. So the series of incidents have a special significance, have a very important role to play. Unfortunately, in the midst of all the activities that we do, which we prioritize, in the name of Janmashtami, we forget to pay attention to these details. Then it just remains as a festival consciousness. A festival here, they had called me, I just came and did some service, but it is more to it. If we really want the Lord to manifest in our heart, there is a lot of tenacity, there is a lot of innate qualities required within us. And I'm not trying to manufacture anything or tell something on my own. This is all Bhagavatam's description, or Acharya's recommendation and instructions. So we saw that how Parikshit was not satisfied in hearing the glories and the activities of the Lord in 2 verses, because Sukadeva Goswami just concluded the entire Krishna Lila in 2 verses. But Parikshit told, this is not done. I mean, you were elaborately describing about the different dynasties and the kings who are coming in the Moon dynasty, and all of a sudden you have finished Lord Krishna's activities and pastimes in 2 verses. And then he had specific questions. He wanted to know, how did the Lord appear? How did Balaram get transferred from Devaki's home to Rohini's home? He had very, very specific questions. And then he also told, I have asked you certain questions, please answer them, but I might not have asked some questions, answer them as well. And then how Sukadeva Goswami, when he begins to narrate this pastimes, starts with the fact that Mother Earth was overburdened by the impious kings, by their sinful activities. And she was so overburdened that she looks for relief and goes to Brahma and asks for some relief. And Brahma doesn't have a solution. They all, accompanied by all the demigods, they go to the milk ocean and pray to the Kshirodakashai Vishnu by offering Purusha Sukta. And the Lord reveals only to Brahma, and Brahma then transfers this message that all of you have to take birth in the Yadu dynasty, because the Lord is soon going to manifest. He's going to advent, and he'll remove all these miseries. And then the scene changes. The scene 1 was Parikshit's eagerness. Scene 2 was about Mother Earth going as cow, overburdened, asking for relief. And the third scene is where the son of Ugrasen, he is like Vasudeva is getting married to Devaki, and Kamsa, being the brother, is so affectionate towards his sister that he has agreed to become the charioteer, and he's taking them. And suddenly they hear that cosmic sound, the mystic sound, that the 8th son of Devaki is going to kill you. And suddenly the same affectionate brother transforms and shows his different form, where he's about to kill Devaki. Imagine the situation if you are in the hand of a person. So in one hand, Kamsa is holding the hair of Devaki, and in the other hand, he has got the sharp sword. It's about to behead Devaki, and Vasudeva is trying his best to preach Kamsa about Krishna consciousness, and the wonderful examples, that analogies that he gives. Yesterday we saw those. Anybody remembers any analogies who were there? Who was there? Who else was there? Bhagavad Tattva Prabhu, you were there? You were not there. You were there partially. Anybody who was there in yesterday's class? Giriji, you were there. Do you remember? Okay,
We talked about the birth and death and
yes. What were the analogies given? You were not there. You were
do
there.
not recollect.
Do not recollect. Analogies.
Taking one step and putting forward, so just like when the other is left.
Okay. Yeah, that's one correct example. Anybody? It's okay. Anyway, there were at least 3, maybe there were 4, but one I think I don't remember if Prabhu quoted or not, but it is there in the verse. First is what Panduranga Prabhu just told, like when we are walking. When we are walking and we are taking, Mother, you can sit this. Don't sit that. Come this. When we are walking and when we are about to go from one place to another, we lift our step and put it in another step, put it in another place. So first you have to lift and then you have to put. So like that, actually the example that is given there is, the soul is forced to transmigrate bodies. It has to quit and accept another body. It's a journey where you don't have a choice. You have to live to go to the next place. Like that, the soul quits the body and takes another one. And there was another one which is given as a worm or a silk worm, which jumps from one fruit to a leaf or something like that. And there's a beautiful thing which was told also yesterday, the reflection of moon in the water and how it appears differently. Shaking, sometimes it's in the shape of water, the shape of the reflection is round shape or square shape, and based on that, the reflection appears like that. Similarly, the soul, which is eternal, like the moon, there is no deformation in that. It is there in the spiritual world, but the reflection of that appears in different bodies, in different shapes. There was another one also in that it says that like a ship which is there in the water, and the water is turbulent, so the ship appears to shake. Similarly, because of the fluctuation of our mind, the mind which is chanchala, appears that we are suffering in this material world. Anyway, these were all the examples given by, not by him. Who is he to give examples? Who is telling this to whom? Vasudeva is telling to Kamsa. He is trying his best. So the whole thing is, my only point of asking repeatedly is to understand how it is not so easy to get Krishna in our heart. It is not easy. And see, in this, the small verse that I took today, two things we have to see very clearly. One is Kamsa is determined to kill Devaki, come what may. No matter how much Vasudeva has preached, Kamsa is convinced to kill. But Vasudeva is also determined not to give up. Okay, so the idea of today's class, if you want to take something, if you really are serious that Krishna should manifest in your heart, then the most important quality which is required for that to happen is our determination. Without determination, actually, if the determination is one of the 64 qualities of Krishna, by the way. And determination comes again and again in Bhagavad Gita at various places. If we lack determination in life, if we give up at every single instance, something happens and then I stop, or I have no desire, no enthusiasm, nothing. I'm just doing it. There is no way that Krishna will manifest. So the purport of I wish I could have gone to this. This is one of my favorite chapter, the 10th canto, 2nd chapter, where the demigods appear and pray to the Lord in the womb of Devaki. But unfortunately, I will not be able to reach there. But it's beautiful prayers. How the demigods, they realize that Krishna has now entered into the womb of Devaki, because Devaki is so bright and effulgent, shining, and they come and offer this wonderful prayers. We will see that maybe if Krishna wills, then tomorrow or next time, sometime. But let us focus on this one thing, this picture which Prabhu painted yesterday. One hand, you can see the left hand of Kamsa. He's holding Devaki's hair, and in the right hand, he's about to kill. But Vasudeva has not given up hope. Actually, in Kali Yuga, Prabhupada mentions this, that people's memory is very, very low, very less. Right? Prayana alpayusa sabhya kalo asmin yuge janāh manda asmanda matayoho manda bhakyahi upadrata. Prayana alpayusa, we have all got short lifespans. Prayana alpayusa sabhya kalo asmin yuge janāh manda, we are dull. Manda sumanda matayo. Intelligence is also very poor. Manda sumanda matayo, lazy, then intelligence is poor. Manda bhagya, unfortunate, and we are disturbed. And intelligence poor is our memory is very weak. Take about names, numbers, very difficult to remember. Even in our life, the incidents which happen, that also we forget very easily, very quickly. How did we come in touch with Krishna consciousness? How life has transformed after that? We forget about it. Janmashtami is one event to recollect and remember Krishna's appearance in our lives. Not just that one time, just the fact that what kind of a life we were leading and how life has transformed, how life has changed. And what else I can do so that the Lord remains permanently, always within my heart. As I said, the most important thing for this is determination. Okay, now the class that we have, some 30, 40 minutes, whatever time is remaining, I want to divide this into 8 points. What is the meaning of the word determination? What is Krishna's determination? And how Krishna's determination is absolute. The importance of the quality of determination. Our determination never goes in vain. Determination in different modes. Why we are not determined. How to become determined in devotional service. And our determination must be to follow the authority. 8 different points. Let's start with the meaning of determination. What is the meaning of determination? Sridhar?
Not giving up due to circumstances.
Not giving up due to certain circumstances. Okay. Do you remember any verse where Krishna mentions about determination? One clue is Bhagavad Gita was spoken, or Prabhupada says that was the inspiration for me to write Bhagavad Gita. Abhyavasayina. Vyavasayatmika buddhi. You can repeat. Vyavasayatmika buddhi. Ekeha kurunandana. Bahu sakhahi anantascha. Buddhayo abhyavasayina. So Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kurunandana. In that purport, Prabhupada writes, Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasadat, yasya aprasadan nagati kutopi. The success of our spiritual life depends on following the instruction of our spiritual master. The instruction of the spiritual master should be the heart and soul of a disciple. That is how he can make progress. And that was the inspiration for Prabhupada. How to become resolute in determination. And in the purport, how we can become resolute in following the instructions of our spiritual master. So the first word, determination. Determination doesn't mean simply, sitting in one place, closing our eyes and thinking something I'll achieve. No, it's not what determination is. Prabhupada says determination is something any person who observes regulative principles and fulfills his promises by practical activity is called determined. Who observes regulative principles, who fulfills his promises by practical activity is called determined. We know another name of Krishna is Achyuta, infallible. Infallible means who never fails to keep his words. He always protects, his promises, he always keeps his promise. One example, which is, we can take countless examples. Take the example of Draupadi. Take the example of Gajendra. Take the example, he himself goes to protect Gajendra. Right? There is this beautiful story which is mentioned in Nectar of Devotion, even there in Krishna book. And Prabhupada says, the story is about Satyabhama wanting the Parijata flower, and how the entire clan of demigods, the whole group, they came against Krishna, right? But Krishna defeated all of them. Right? Just the desire of Queen Satyabhama, she wanted a Parijata flower. and Krishna promised to deliver it. But who refused? Indra. Many times he forgets his position and does something. So Indra refused to give that, and there was a great fight. And ultimately Krishna defeated all of them and took that Parijata flower, which he presented to his queen. So nectar of devotion very interestingly mentions, Krishna told Narada Muni, my dear great sage of the demigods, now you can declare to the devotees in general and to the non-devotees in particular that in this matter of taking the Parijata flower, all the demigods, the Gandharvas, the Nagas, the demons, Rakshasas, the Yakshas, the Panagas tried to defeat me, but none could make me break my promise to my queen. So similarly in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord gives another promise. What is that promise? What is it? 18.66. Sarva Dharman. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayasami ma sucha. It's a promise by the Lord. He's giving a promise, sarva dharman parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. Sincere devotee who's always engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord should know that for certain, Krishna will never break his promise. He will always protect his devotees in all circumstances. If we go a little further in the verse, actually in the next chapter, Krishna's promise, Krishna's determination is absolute. In that there is a verse which is spoken by the demigods, which has got the word Satyam used many times. Why this is not going? My screen is stuck. Is it moving? No, it's going. Okay. I'll come to this little later. So the Krishna's determination is absolute. Now, I said about Satyavratam, Satya, that verse has got many times Satyam, and Prabhupada uses Satyavratam in that word, that Krishna's determination is absolute. And in another place, Prabhupada actually writes, this is in Devahuti and Kapila Dev's dialogue in that conversation, 3.33.3, that your determination is absolute. There is no question of your fulfilling your will with the help of anyone else besides yourself. You are in the end the supreme soul and the supreme controller. Your will therefore cannot be checked by anyone else. In the material world, we always need some support to fulfill our determination. We take some vows, and to fulfill it, we need some paraphernalia or support. But none can check Krishna's plans. We say that Lord Rama conquered Lanka with the help of monkeys, but that is not the fact. Lord Rama simply wanted to engage these monkeys in the service. Otherwise, the Lord doesn't need anyone's support. Point which Prabhupada is trying to make here is, Krishna's determination is absolute. To execute his plan, he does not need any support from anyone. Like in our case, we need so much of support, so many things. So then let's go to the next one. Importance of the quality of determination. Because why this determination is so important for Krishna to manifest in our heart. Again, if we see the teachings of Lord Kapila, in that book, Prabhupada writes this particular paragraph, which is very, very nice. There are many contaminations within the heart. And the people in this age are engaged in many sinful activities: illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling. The whole world is revolving about these things. Yet, despite this, we have to spread this Krishna consciousness movement. There may be many obstacles, but they can all be transcended by Krishna's mercy. There was a class which Prabhupada was giving in, I think, New Dwarka, is ISKCON Los Angeles, right? So he was giving a class just before Janmashtami. And he said this exact sentence, There may be many obstacles, but they can all be transcended by Krishna's mercy. And while speaking that, Prabhupada had closed his eyes. And then he looked at to the left, he saw people were sleeping. He looked at the center, people were sleeping. He looked this side and they all were closing their eyes. Then Prabhupada opened his eyes and said, this is a fact. Because whatever is required for us to be done, it is done by the Lord, not that we are doing it by our own intelligence or something. It is happening by the mercy of the Lord. And when he looked at their disciples, already in sleep, he just said, this is a fact. Really, we may think we are doing, but it is Krishna's mercy. And then Prabhupada concludes, we only have to be determined in our devotion, the rest will follow. This is the essence of Lord Kapila's instructions to his mother. We only have to be determined in our devotion, the rest will follow. So with this, we can understand how much important is the quality of determination. Elsewhere, Prabhupada says that the word initiation also means determination. Here we have initiated disciples of Srila Prabhupada. First thing that is required is determined. Dikshita means a person who is determined. An initiated devotee means a determined devotee. Not that today I'll do, tomorrow I'll not show. There is fluctuation. I do independently, don't consult. These are all not the symptoms of a person who's initiated devotee. It means he's determined. We are determined to observe certain rules and regulations and to follow certain principles. In the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains, actually, who are the people who are dear to Krishna? Right? And in those, he explains the various qualities a person should possess so that he can become dear to him. And one of the qualities that he mentions there is Dridha Nishchaya. Dridha Nishchaya. One who is engaged in devotional service with determination. Bhagavad Tattva Prabhu, what is the 6 principles of surrender? Can hear? Aklash. Can you hear me? Okay, Srinidhi Mataji, what are the 6 principles of surrender? Sudevi Mataji, what is 6 principles of surrender?
Prabhu, accepting the things favorable for devotional service.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Rejecting anything that is unfavorable.
Okay, can you tell me the Sanskrit of that? Accepting things favorable for Krishna's service.
Anukulyasya varjanam.
Anukulyasya sankalpaha pratikulyasya varjanam.
Varjanam. Sorry.
Anukulyasya sankalpaha. So that word sankalpa is determination. Accepting things favorable to devotional service. We should be determined that we will accept only those things which are favorable to devotional service. And the second principle is that we should be determined to reject. Again, determined to reject things not favorable. Pratikulyasya varjana. Some things are not favorable for my devotional life. Determined to reject it. Not that I embrace them and look for solutions. There is a very beautiful purport. This I recently heard when Madhumani Prabhu was explaining. This is in the 4th canto, 8th chapter, 72nd verse. Srila Prabhupada, how he's praising Dhruva Maharaj. He's praising Dhruva Maharaj for the determination. And what he writes is here in this purport, you can take a look at this. Excellent purport, actually. So the purport is, we should always remember that to become a bona fide devotee of the Lord is not an easy task. It's not an easy thing. But in this age, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, it has been made very easy. But if we do not follow even the liberal instructions of Lord Chaitanya, how can we expect to discharge our regular duties in devotional service? It is not possible in this age to follow Dhruva Maharaj in his austerity, but the principles must be followed. We should not disregard the regulative principles given by our spiritual master, for they make it easier for the conditioned soul. As far as our ISKCON movement is concerned, we simply ask that one observe the 4 prohibitive rules, chant 16 rounds, and instead of indulging in luxurious eating for the tongue, simply accept prasad offered to the Lord. See, I don't know, I think I was sharing it Balram Prabhu some days back. I came across a beautiful analogy. And the analogy is applicable to us also in our devotional life. Is the analogy of a tree. What are the important limbs of tree, Mataji?
Roots.
Okay. Trunk. Abhi? What are the different limbs of tree? Tree, roots, trunk, what else?
Branches.
Branches,
Leaves,
leaves, flowers, fruits, all these things are there. For a tree which is strong, which can withstand the turbulence outside, like the storm or some wind, what is the important thing that the tree needs to have?
Strong roots.
Strong roots. The roots should be...
Tarorapi sahisnana.
Huh?
Tarorapi sahisnana.
Tarorap nahi aayega, ruk jayega. Tarorapi kaha? Either tree, how the tree has to be strong. The tree has to be strong. Then the roots have to be very strongly, it should go deeply. And the trunk also has to be strong. If the trunk is hollow, the roots are there, but the trunk is hollow for some reason. Some insect is biting it. It cannot do anything. And finally, the fruits, the leaves, the flowers, these are the offerings of the tree to people in general. Like that, in our devotional life also, if we want to offer something to the Lord, we want to offer something to somebody else, we need to have those beautiful leaves, flowers, and fruits. But to have them, first we need to have strong roots. And the strong roots is following 4 regulative principles, doing our sadhana properly. If we only don't get up for morning Mangalarti, if we only know we don't chant our rounds properly, if we sleep that time, if we think that is what is more important to me, then the roots are weak. And if the roots are weak, then the trunk also will not be nourished. So daily sadhana is it's a must. It's so important for our existence. A person who has got weak sadhana, the roots are not strong, then how the tree will stand? A small this thing, he'll become collapsed. He'll become agitated, disturbed. And if a person is disturbed and agitated, it is very easy to come out of devotional life because the determination is not there. So the roots have to be strong. Then the trunk is actually following the instruction of our spiritual master. If that is not there, hollow trunk, then it will also. If these 2 things are strong and are properly in place, then only we can give something to others. Otherwise, we ourselves are morose. We are only sitting in one place, dull, or we speak some material things. It will not do a transformation of heart. I remember, I think there was one devotee in Bangalore. He's now not there in the temple, but he used to say that they were going for book distribution to Majestic and the Majestic bus stop. And it's a very crowded place. A lot of people come. And there was one day when there was no prasadam. So basically what happens, sometimes, the prasadam is sent to the place where the people are doing book distribution, and the prasadam didn't come. So he and there were few other devotees, 2 other devotees who were doing book distribution. This person, because there is no prasadam, nobody is coming, he was very dull. So there's, and he's in Bhagavad Gita, was selling it to someone. So a person who came to see that, he saw, that person himself is morose and sad, no energy. How will he feel convinced to buy the book? We are saying chant and be happy, but we will sit only in one place, one like a dull and this thing. So पढ़ो मेरा तो कुछ नहीं हुआ तुम्हारा हो जाएगा साइकिल ले लो. How will it happen? First of all, we don't read. We don't understand what is this, what is given. And we want to sell it to someone. And there also we are not convinced about the book, or we are sitting in one, how will it happen? So that's why the roots and the trunk has to be strong. So let's see the purport again, continuing in this. Prabhupada is saying, as far as our ISKCON movement is concerned, we simply ask that one observe the four. There's not much actually. We observe the 4 regulative rules, chant 16 rounds, and instead of indulging in luxurious eating for the body and the soul, together to, instead of eating for the tongue, simply accept prasad offered to the Lord. As far as possible, we should accept simple foodstuff, just to keep the body and soul together to execute devotional service. It is our duty to remember always that in comparison to Dhruva Maharaj, we are insignificant. See, this is where the thing Prabhupada says so beautifully. It is important to remember how austere Dhruva Maharaj was, 5-year-old boy doing this kind of austerities. We are insignificant. We cannot do anything like that Dhruva Maharaj did for self-realization, because we are absolutely incompetent to execute such service. But by Lord Chaitanya's mercy, we have been given all concessions possible for this age, so that at least we should always remember that neglect of our prescribed duties in devotional service will not make us successful in the mission we have undertaken. And if you want to remember, highlight, underline the last sentence which is there in this purport. It is our duty to follow in the footsteps of Dhruva Maharaj, for he was very determined. We should also be determined to finish our duties in executing devotional service in this life. In this life, we should not wait for another life to finish our job. It is our duty to follow in the footsteps of Dhruva Maharaj, for he was very determined. Okay, so this is the point regarding importance of the quality of determination. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is our determination never goes in vain. And this is, if I could not put this thing in the slide, but if you go to 6.2.4 purport, 6.2.4 Bhagavatam purport, in that purport, Prabhupada writes, these are all just some few purports of Prabhupada, but very, very important to understand what role the determination plays and how we become weak in our determination when we get completely out of devotional life. Especially on this day of Janmashtami, when we are trying to invoke the presence of the Lord in our heart, one thing we can never forget to, we can never afford to forget, is the quality of determination. So 6.2.4, if you can open and see, Prabhupada is actually writing. I can try to open that verse here. Give me just one second. Can you see? It's appearing.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, so this will come a little later. My apology. It is 6.24 Bhagavad Gita. Sanishchayana. Sanishchayana yoktavya yoga nirvinna chetasa sankalpa prabhavan kamams tyaktva sarvan aseshataha. So this verse, actually, one should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith and not be deviated from the path. One should abandon without exception all material desires born of mental speculation and thus control all the senses on all sides by the mind. In this purport, if you see this word, the line which is starting with as for determination, right? As for determination, one should follow the example of the sparrow who lost her eggs in the waves of the ocean. You know this story, right? A sparrow laid her eggs on the shore of the ocean, but the big ocean carried away the eggs and its waves. The sparrow became very upset and asked the ocean to return her eggs. The ocean didn't even consider her appeal. So the sparrow decided to dry up the ocean. She began to pick out the water in her small beak, and everyone laughed at her for her impossible determination. The news of her activity spread, and at last Garuda, the gigantic bird carrier of Lord Vishnu, heard it. He became compassionate towards his small sister bird, and so he came to see the sparrow. Garuda was very pleased by the determination of the small sparrow, and he promised to help. Thus Garuda at once asked the ocean to return her eggs, lest he himself take up the work of the sparrow. The ocean was frightened at this and returned the eggs. Thus the sparrow became happy by the grace of Garuda. Now comes the most important line in this purport. Similarly, the practice of yoga, especially bhakti yoga in Krishna consciousness, may appear to be a very difficult job. But if anyone follows the principles with great determination, the Lord will surely help, or God helps those who help themselves. So the important thing to remember is our determination never goes in vain. Thus our determination to follow our vows never goes in vain. Whatever vows are, we are trying to execute for Krishna and his devotees will always help. So this is the fourth point, right? So they spoke about meaning of determination. Krishna's determination is absolute. The third one is the importance of the quality of determination. And the fourth one, quality of determination, we saw how Dhruva Maharaj is. The fourth is our determination never goes in vain. Fifth one is determination in different modes, right? We saw Kamsa is also determined to kill Devaki. And Vasudeva is also determined not to give up, to help her, to execute his devotional service. Even though he knows there is death which is imminent, he has not given up hope. And so the determination in different modes, actually Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about this the determination in different modes of material nature. So determination in the mode of goodness means that the mind is fixed on Krishna. Determination in the mode of passion, that means the mind is fixed on sense enjoyment. Determination in the mode of ignorance means simply animalistic nature like oversleeping. This is what Prabhupada writes. So if mind is fixed on Krishna, that is determination in the mode of goodness. If it is fixed on sense enjoyment, then that is in the mode of passion. And if it is just for animalistic nature, then it is mode of ignorance. Different personalities exhibit different types of determination because the material world is filled with three modes of material nature. These three modes, what are those three modes? Goodness. Tamas, Rajas, and Sattva. So these three modes, they always fight amongst themselves for the supremacy, right? There is always a fight. Sometimes goodness wins, sometimes passion wins, sometimes ignorance wins. So our determination should be how this, despite this flickering and changing modes, how I can remain fixed in this material world which is temporary. So the scriptures give the example of Bali Maharaj, who was determined to give up everything for the service of Krishna. Prithu Maharaj was determined to perform 100-horse sacrifices. Durvasa Muni was determined to perform severe austerities. Parikshit Maharaj was determined to hear Śrīmad Bhagavatam. Kamsa was determined to kill Krishna. We should be determined to execute the principles of devotional service. This is again the purport. Our determination should not shake at any point of time. We may take many vows, but unless we add austerity in keeping these vows, Krishna will not be pleased. We should try to do things in the right time, in the right place, and in the right circumstances. We should not be puffed up that I am chanting 16 rounds. We should only simply improve ourselves by taking a vow to chant our rounds early in the morning, then chanting at any point in time. Why are we not determined? Material world. Okay, good. Roots are not strong. Okay.
Association is not proper.
What is that?
Association is not proper.
Association is not proper. Okay.
So we don't value it enough.
Very good answer. We don't value it enough. True. That's why determination is lacking. So if we summarize, so we got some answers from here. Roots are not strong. Our senses go here and there. We don't value it enough. All are right answers. So first thing, if you see from Bhagavad Gita, because this is where we fall in this category, right? Our determination is not strong. Laziness is also one of the answers. That will also come. First thing which Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 2.44. Anybody knows what is this verse? Bhogeshwarya. So that samadho is samyak dhi, means resolute determination. Bhogeshwarya prasaktanam taya apahrata chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhi samadho na vidhiyate. This is what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 2.44. Mind you, there are two things which are mentioned in this, and the translation of this: in the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence. Sense enjoyment and material opulence. Bhoga and Aishwarya. Bhogeshwarya prasaktanam taya apahrata chetasam. This words used by Krishna are so powerful. Apahrata chetasam. It's kidnapped. Intelligence is kidnapped. If somebody is too attached to Bhoga and Aishwarya, intelligence is kidnapped, then Vyavasayatmika buddhi will never happen. Vyavasayatmika buddhi samadho na vidhiyate. Those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. So it is very, very important for the senses to be controlled. And of the senses, the most important is the tongue. The tongue does two things, that is to vibrate and to taste. If we want to be determined in keeping our vows, then we should bring our senses under our control. Again, there is a quote by Prabhupada. This is from a book called Quest for Enlightenment. Prabhupada writes in this book, our tongue also wants very palatable dishes to taste. So Krishna, being very kind, has given you hundreds and thousands of palatable dishes, the remnants of foods eaten by him. And if you simply make this determined vow, I shall not allow my tongue to taste anything not offered to Krishna, and shall always engage my tongue in chanting Hare Krishna, then all perfection is in your grasp. All perfection, Prabhupada repeats. Two simple things. Don't eat anything not offered to Krishna, and always chant Hare Krishna. That is all. So the first thing which hinders for us to become determined is the attachment or attraction for sense enjoyment and opulence. Bhogeshwarya prasaktanam taya apahrata chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhi samadho na vidhiyate. Second one, as Sridhar was mentioning, our goal is not to free from birth and death. If you see, when we were doing that Kartik month meditation in 7.29, the verse that we were taking, everybody knows what is that verse? Bhajante mam dridhabrata. 7.28. Yesham to antagatam papam jananam punya karmana te dvanda moha nirmuktam bhajante mam dridhabrata. That verse, next verse of that 7.29, it is mentioned, intelligent persons who are endeavoring for liberation from old age and death take refuge in me in devotional service. They are actually Brahman because they entirely know everything about transcendental and fruitive activities. right? So intelligent persons who are endeavoring for liberation from old age and death take refuge in me in devotional service. So unless we have the goal to become free from birth, death, old age, and disease, we won't be fixed in our vows. Prabhupada is saying they take refuge, who endeavor to, so the translation, who are endeavoring for liberation from old age and death, take refuge in me in devotional service. It is, Prabhupada is saying, the example Prabhupada is giving is like sitting in a first-class compartment on a train. But the thing is that train is not moving. So we may be in the train for years and years. We may have a very comfortable situation here, or even in heavenly planets. But for millions of years, we will continue to remain in the material world because we are not moving towards the goal. We do not care in the midst of all the enjoyment whether my train is moving or not. We are simply busy in enjoying the comforts. So if the goal is not to get free, if that goal is not fixed, it is like, sitting in a comfortable first-class compartment in a train and not even bothered about whether the train is moving or not. The third thing is we do not see our death. This is again related to that. It is yesterday's verse which Prabhupada was, when he was telling, in the next 2 or 3 verses, there is one verse which is quoted by Chanakya Pandit, by Prabhupada in the purport. Anityam nityam. What is that verse? The temporariness of this material world, nityam. One has to meditate on the temporariness of the material world or temporariness of our life. Nityam anityam. So every day one should remember that my life is temporary. Death is permanent, as sure as death. But we don't see our death. We do not. I was reading, there was one report which says 92% of the people don't make their, what do you call those? That will. 92%, because they don't see that it is coming. They don't feel that there is a need. We do not appreciate that we are in the mouth of death. Prabhupada says we always forget that we have to leave the material world, leave. Imagine a person who's condemned to death. There is a tradition that a person who's going to be hanged is offered a very nice feast. But at that point, would he like to enjoy? Because the feast will remind him that he is going to be hanged. But we do not see that we are also going to die sooner or later. We do not realize the point that death is very, 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 very near. We don't realize that. That is why the determination doesn't come. चलता है, मैं कुछ भी करूंगा, जो मन में आया, devotion में आ गया, फिर भी there is no change. I'll do, and I'm lazy, this thing. So this is the second reason why we are not determined. The first one was? What was the first one? First one was Bhogeshwarya Prasaktanam. Attachment to? What are they? Opulence and sense enjoyment. Second one was? We don't appreciate this. Third one. Second one was we don't have the goal that we want to come out of birth, death, old age, and disease. 7.20. Third one is we don't see our death. Death is coming, we don't see it. Fourth one is we have expectations. We want quick results. We don't want to tolerate adverse circumstances. We take up devotional service, and in exchange of devotional service, we expect that things should always remain comfortable. So when something doesn't happen as per my expectation, oh, I have taken up to devotion, fir bhi mere life mein problem aa raha hai. And the result is that expectation kills devotional service.
Last Badir, how many copper panno, thread panno na?
Can you go on mute? Expectation kills devotional service. Our duty is to simply render devotional service. It is the duty of Krishna to protect us. We should not expect that Krishna should provide protection. Whatever Krishna does for us, we should remain satisfied. If we expect anything in return for devotional service, then we won't be able to sustain our vows. We won't be able to relish devotional service. So if that is the thing, So how many reasons we took? For 5. What is the first one? Second one? Okay. Our goal is not to get liberated. Fine. Not to come out of birth, death, old age and disease. Okay. Third? Okay. Fourth?
We have expectation.
Okay. I missed one more. The fifth one is we are not free from sinful activities. We still commit sinful activities, as Prabhupada mentions in that yasantu antagatam papam, janānam punyakarmanam te dvanda moha nirmukta bhajante mam dridhakrata. So persons who have acted piously in previous life and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated and are freed from the dualities of delusion, can they engage themselves in my service with determination? This is what Krishna says in 7.28. Right? So although we have taken to this path of devotional service, we want to make progress, we have still not given a full stop to our sinful activities. Yesterday, Prabhu was telling that answer to Ankit's question that forgetfulness of Krishna is a sin. Somewhere in one of the letters or conversations I was seeing, Prabhupada is saying that anger and criticism are the worst sins to be avoided. Unless we stop the sinful activities, whatever vows we take, we cannot be determined in keeping them. Unless we stop the sinful activities. What is a sin? Sin doesn't mean some gross sin. Sin also means forgetfulness of Krishna, right? Unless we stop the sinful activities, whatever vows we take, we cannot be determined in keeping them. If these are the problems of how a person is not determined, question is, how can we become determined in our devotional service? And this is something which I want you to take from today's class, because that's what we started off with, that how Vasudev, whose another name is Shauri, if you see the word Shauri in that first chapter, 10th canto, at least 5 times Sukadev Goswami is using that word for Vasudev, who's not given up. The fact in Kali Yuga, people have everything less, and they're also very quick to give up their hope that, okay, over, finished, my life is gone, done, what I can do. Very, very quick to give up hope. Shauri is the example or the name which is used to address Vasudev, because he never gave up his determination to practice devotional life. He didn't give up. So how can we become determined in our devotional service? I'll just take the example of Ajamil. Very powerful example. Very, very appropriate, and a lot to learn from the example of Ajamil. We know his past life, whatever happened. He had the darshan of Yamadutas and Vishnudutas, but what did he do after that? We know the history, right? He was a sinful man, and he got liberated by the Vishnudutas who came to rescue him. Question is, Ajamil chanted the holy name Narayana, even though he was calling out to his son, whose name was Narayana. And the Vishnudutas released Ajamila from the ropes of the Yamadutas, explaining the glories of the holy name. And Ajamil could understand the fortunate situation of his, that how he could just by chanting the holy name of Narayana at the end of his life, he could get the mercy of coming out of this. In that context, the most important thing for Ajamil was he lamented for the sinful life that he was leading. He lamented when he got escaped from this, Yamaduta's clutches. He lamented, having been released from the nooses of Yamaraja's servants. The Brahmana Ajamila, now free from fear, came to his senses, and from the wonderful verse which he spoke from 6.2.32 to 37, we understand that In order for us to become determined in devotional service, there are these 5 things which are required. And the first thing, which 6.2.32, if you see the verse in that, the purport, Prabhupada is actually writing 6.2.32 is very nice verse. We have to first realize that we are very much insignificant as compared to Krishna. This is the first point we should remember. 6.2.32. So in that, I'm certainly, Ajamil says, I'm certainly most abominable. The translation, I'm certainly most abominable and unfortunate to have merged in an ocean of sinful activities, but nevertheless, because of my previous spiritual activities, I could see those 4 exalted personalities who came to rescue me. Now I feel exceedingly happy because of their visit. Then in the next verse, he says, were it not for my past devotional service, how could I, a most unclean keeper of a prostitute, have gotten an opportunity to chant the holy name of Vaikuntapati when I was just ready to die? Certainly, it could not have been possible. Thus we should realize our most insignificant and abominable position first. So Ajamil, the realization that, I'm certainly most abominable and unfortunate to have merged in an ocean of sinful activities. But because of my previous spiritual activities, I could see those 4 exalted personalities who came to rescue me. Now I feel exceedingly happy because of their visit. And then he's saying that I was a keeper of prostitute, unclean habits, have gotten this opportunity to chant the holy name of Vaikuntapati when I was about to die. Certainly it could not have been possible. So the position of ours that we are chanting, we should remember that we, how much insignificant we are as compared to Krishna. Then the next one, we have to realize that Krishna is very merciful, and he has so mercifully given us the opportunity to perform devotional service. And to see this, if you see 6.2.34, Ajamil is continuing that I am a shameless cheater who has killed his Brahminical culture indeed. I am sin personified. Where am I in comparison to all auspicious chanting of the holy name of Lord Narayana? He says, I am so sinful that I am not even eligible to touch the holy name with my tongue. That should be our mood when we chant the holy names. I'm so sinful that I'm so sinful that I'm not even eligible to touch the holy name with my tongue. So if we realize that we are carrying so many sins, our mood should be that Krishna has given the opportunity so kindly to chant the holy names. But many times we chant with feeling as if we are doing a great favor to the Lord by chanting his names. Srila Prabhupada writes in his purport to 6.2.34, if you see this purport, Prabhupada is saying, those engaged in broadcasting the holy names of Narayana Krishna through the Krishna consciousness movement should always consider what our position was before we came and what it is now. We had fallen into abominable lives as meat eaters, drunkards, women hunters who performed all kinds of sinful activities, but now we have been given the opportunity to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Therefore, we should always appreciate the opportunity. By the grace of the Lord, we are opening many branches, and we should use this good fortune to chant the holy name of the Lord and serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. We must be conscious of the difference between our present and past conditions and should always be very careful not to fall from most exalted life. If one is conscious or remember, if one is remembering his position before and how one has come out of those bad habits, and like Ajamila, he lamented his life and never did that again. So if we really have to have that determination, one needs to understand what we were before. We are so insignificant, not that we are very powerful and we are doing any favor or mercy on Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. No. It is Krishna's, it is Prabhupada's great, it is causeless mercy on us that we have been given this chanting. And like Ajamila remembered his past life and how sinful he was and how by the grace of the Lord, he could, remember the Lord. Like that, we should also remember. And Prabhupada writes that by the grace of the Lord, so many centers are open, and we should use this good fortune to chant the holy names of the Lord. So whenever we come to the program, as soon as we reach the doorstep, we should start chanting and should go on until we leave the place. We should try at least this much, if not more. We should realize the opportunity we have got. In the nectar of devotion, it is mentioned in Mahabharata. Krishna says, when I was away from Draupadi, she cried with the words, "Hey Govinda, this call for me has put me in her debt, and that indebtedness is gradually increasing in my heart." This statement by Krishna gives evidence of how one can please the Supreme Lord simply by addressing him, "Hey Krishna, hey Govinda." So, and the call out of the mantra, Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, is asking the Lord for protection. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. So to anyone who's constantly engaged in addressing the Lord and his energy, we can imagine how much the Supreme Lord is obliged. It is impossible for the Lord to ever forget such a devotee. It is clearly stated in this verse, anyone who addresses the Lord immediately attracts the attention of the Lord, who always remains obliged to him. Now, the last part, 6.2.34. So this 32 to 37, in that Ajamil further says, "I am such a sinful person, but since I have now gotten this opportunity, I must completely control my mind, life, and senses, and always engage in devotional service so that I may not fall again into the deep darkness and ignorance of material life." So this is the essence. I mean, remembering our position and the fact that we have got that, being determined that I'm such a sinful person, but since I've now gotten this opportunity, I must completely control my mind, life, and senses, and always engage in devotional service so that I may not fall again into this deep darkness and ignorance of material life. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, every one of us should have this determination. We have been elevated to an exalted position by the mercy of Krishna and the spiritual master. And if we remember that this is a great opportunity and pray to Krishna that we will not fall again, our lives will be successful. If we remember that this is a great opportunity and pray to Krishna that we will not fall again, our lives will be successful. And then in the 36 and 37, I just want to take this thing, and this is very interesting. We should take up the vows to please Krishna, is what. So Ajamil realizes his past sinful position, past sinful lives, and then understands his position, how fortunate he is. And he takes the determination to control his mind and senses and engage in devotional service, because the realization that when it comes, that my God, what was I doing before, and how careful, how attentive I should be to not give up this, then the determination comes. And in 36 and 37, particularly, this is an excerpt. So we should not keep meditating on the point that I'm sinful, I'm not eligible, and I'm unqualified. From Ajamil, we see that he's taking the vow that now I must completely control my mind, life, and senses, and always engage in devotional service. Ajamil had the faith that Krishna will protect him in his devotional service. The moment we take the vow with faith and confidence, Krishna reveals himself. As Krishna destroys the darkness of ignorance in the heart, Ajamil speaks the following wonderful verse in Bhagavatam 36 and 37. Because of identifying oneself with the body, one is subject to the desires for sense gratification, and thus one engages in many different types of pious and impious action. This is what constitutes material bondage. Now I shall disentangle myself from my material bondage, which has been caused by the Supreme Personality of Godhead's illusory energy in the form of a woman. Being a most fallen soul, I was victimized by the illusory energy and have become like a dancing dog led around by a woman's hand. Now I shall give up all lusty desires and free myself from this illusion. I shall become a merciful, well-wishing friend to all living entities and always absorb myself in Krishna consciousness. So this is the determination, this is the vow which Ajamil takes. Even in the case of Jagai Madhai, if you see, when they were delivered by Nityananda Prabhu, the first condition is stop doing the sinful activities. Stop going back. Otherwise, this holy name will not act. Yesham tvantagatam papam. We saw that that acts as a hindrance for having our dridhabrata, becoming determined. So I shall become a merciful and well-wishing friend to all the living entities. By that, Prabhupada is saying he means that I will preach the message. This is the only way we can be a well-wishing friend. And Prabhupada says that we should be determined to spread Krishna consciousness and deliver everyone. If we have that vow, certainly we are going to be delivered. And the purport, this is very, very interesting. This should be the standard of determination for all Krishna conscious persons. A Krishna conscious person should free himself from the clutches of Maya, and he should always be compassionate to all others suffering in those clutches. The activities of the Krishna consciousness movement are meant not only for oneself, but for others also. This is the perfection of Krishna consciousness. One who is interested in his own salvation is not as advanced in Krishna consciousness as one who feels compassion for others and who therefore propagates the Krishna consciousness movement. Such an advanced devotee will never fall down, for Krishna will give him special protection. That is the sum and substance of the Krishna consciousness movement. Everyone is like a play toy in the hands of the illusory energy and is acting as he moves him. One should come to Krishna consciousness to release oneself and to release others. So Ajamil's life is actually a very, very nice illustration of how one should be determined. We are not any different from Ajamila in our lives also, if we introspect. We had all those sinful activities. We still continue to do sinful activities even after coming to devotional life. But realizing our position and the fact that, we have been given this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which is not a cheap thing. It's not like anybody can take, or I am doing a favor on Lord, that it's by the causeless mercy of Guru. I have got this, being mindful of our own position and being determined to serve the Lord. That determination that can come from this thing. And the final thing which Prabhupada says is we have to associate with devotees. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dridhavrata namashyantascha mam nityam. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dridhavrata namashyantascha mam bhaktya nitya yukta upasate. Always chanting my glories and endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. So if we see 6.2.38, Ajamil says, simply because I chanted the holy names of the Lord in the association of devotees, my heart is now becoming purified. Of course, and the final thing which I had in my points was 8th point was our determination must be to follow the authority. Actually, determination should be, keeping our vows to follow Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. It is not just important to keep the vows. Important point is to follow Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Be the example of Prithu Maharaj, which I was telling last time, even though he was determined to do 100 sacrifices, but by the instruction of the Lord and Brahma, he stopped. He didn't do that. Or be it Priyavrat Maharaj, who was determined to remain brahmachari, but being advised, took up the grihastha ashram. So it is not important what I want to do. It is important what I've been asked to do. Arjuna was not interested in fighting. Arjuna wanted to go and become a sannyasi, but Krishna wanted him to fight. Like today morning, we were reading the quote. Arjuna was not interested in getting some ash to see some miracles that the soldiers are killed on its own. Neither Krishna gave that. Krishna instructed him to fight, to do his duties. So similarly, what Krishna wants us to do, not what I want to do. What I want to do is not so important. How I can align myself with Krishna's plan. Krishna's plan is non-different from Prabhupada's plan. Prabhupada's plan is executed through a system. So when we align ourselves through that is how we can become, determined. Not by saying how nicely I have done this, or I have got this talent, I can do this. I'll do it in a better way. I'll show them. This is not devotional service. This is something else. This is trying to prove some point. Point is, did I align myself to what I was asked to do? Could I do that? Even though it may look imperfect, doing that we make spiritual progress. Like it happened in the case of Priyavrata, like it happened in the case of Prithu Maharaj. So these are some of the important things to remember, to remind ourselves on this day of when Janmashtami is appearing, how we can remain determined. Can you tell some points from today's class?
Started off the main theme of today's talk was about determination. And had 9 points, 8 points. First one was meaning of determination.
Okay. I'm not so important, so interested in all the 8 points. What is the takeaway from today's class?
So, like the first point you said only, Janmashtami is not one day of festival, but Janmashtami is the appearance of Lord in our hearts.
Yeah, every day the Lord can appear in our heart, provided our heart is ready and prepared, and it is conducive to have the Lord in our heart. We don't have to wait for one Janmashtami. The activities that we are doing are not supposed to end only on Janmashtami and then over. Again, we wait for the next year to have these activities. That's not the thing. Yeah.
It has to be like, and then you said how determination helps.
Okay. Okay. Any point that you can recollect? These are good points. Hari?
In this same context, that example of train, we are stagnant in one position and we expect that things will move on its own. It will not. We'll have to act. We have to perform activities and be determined to.
That's not you giving the example, but we have to act is not the thing. Huh? What was the example of train, static train?
We are moving towards goal, destination.
Okay. We have to act towards moving towards the goal.
We have to move towards goal, not sit like not an armchair. We're just sitting and we are expecting that things will
No.
happen.
What was that example analogy?
Should not be enjoying the place of comfort that I'm in the bhuvi, first class bhuvi, but rather also to make sure that whether moving towards the.
Yeah. So we can't make an effort. That example was given. So imagine if you're sitting in a first class compartment, it is very comfortable, but you are not even bothered to see whether the train is moving or not. And the train, what is the goal? The goal is, if I want to overcome birth, death, old age, and disease, that is the destination. So the train should move. If I don't have that goal itself, then I will not take refuge in Krishna. I'll not be determined to engage in devotional service. Okay, anything else?
And our determination never goes in vain, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
You example of sparrow, how eggs were taken by ocean.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And Garuda helped to take that eggs.
Yeah, that point is taken.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a very powerful example which Prabhupada gives, that our determination never goes in vain, of the sparrow. Okay. Anything else? Why we are not determined? Hmm. Yeah.
Then second one was patience. No, that's it. Yeah, was it. Vruddha-vrata, the one after that. We have to get over our sinful reactions. That was the 5th point. I don't know.
We don't value it means we don't see the imminence of death.
Second point was not setting a
goal. And then?
Fourth one was sinful reactions are exhausted. So that was
You have to get rid of sinful reactions.
Fourth one, जो भी बोलेगा उसको. Okay, he's telling it.
expectation.
We have expectations in devotional.
So, we get diverted.
And how to become determined? Understanding our significance, then.
I am simple for my new trees.
Okay.
Following the footsteps of Brahma, like Ajamila was repenting.
Footsteps of Dhruva Maharaj comes earlier. That is the quality of determination. But Ajamila's case is just realizing our position and how insignificant we are compared to Krishna, and how this Hare Krishna Mahamantra is a great boon which is given to us, and how not to engage in sinful activities any further and do this with determination.
The association of devotees.
In the association of devotees, yes, he mentions that. Yeah. Yeah. Anything else?
Senses should be in under control, Prabhuji.
Senses control, okay. Yeah, true, that he says. Now that I've understood this position, because that realization doesn't last within us. If life would have continued the way it was going for Ajamila, and he was scared because everybody is scared of death, and when it happened, when he saw those Yamadutas were there, and he got released from the noose of his Yamadutas, suddenly he realized, my God, finally I'm saved. So when one gets that feeling that I'm saved, he doesn't want to go and do those sinful activities anymore. He doesn't want to get into that kind of a life where the end result is so horrible. Actually, Parikshit Maharaj also, when he hears the description of this hellish planets and how people suffer there because of their sinful activities, were very concerned that what will happen. If these people, the tendency and the desire to commit sinful activities in the heart is not going, they'll keep committing this sinful activities. What is the solution? What is the respite? And in response to that, Sukadeva Goswami begins to narrate about the pastime of Ajamil, and how Ajamil became determined not to do that sinful activities anymore. Any other points? Ankit, you've told enough. Anybody else? Jagan Prabhu?
Prabhu, the expectations. I'm stuck with only the expectations, which Prabhu has already answered.
What is that expectation?
Expectations in the devotional service. We should not have much expectations in the devotional service.
So, Kirti Prabhu?
Nothing to add, Prabhu. Not that I can remember anything more than what is already added.
You can add what you heard, one point.
Why there is the 5 points that you mentioned about the 4th point Jagan Prabhu was saying. That hit me hard, Prabhu.
Which one?
Why are we not determined?
What was the 4th point?
About expectations in the devotional service.
Okay. Okay. Is Mataji also there?
Mataji is not here, Prabhu. She's taking care of the kids.
All right. Prithvin?
Don't recollect.
Want to repeat, reflect?
The point wise or overall?
Anything that you
about determination, the class was on. So the thing that hit me the most was the sparrow refilling the water and Jamila's determination.
good. I think I asked. Bhagavad Tattva Prabhu and Clashra Prabhu will not ask, probably they're busy. So let us pray to Lord Krishna on his auspicious appearance day tomorrow, that we remain determined to follow the instructions of our spiritual master sincerely, not indulge in sinful activities. And as Prabhupada says, that one has to learn to follow the authority, the sadhu, guru sadhu sastra. It's not about doing what I like to do or how I can do. It's about aligning ourselves with what has been asked to do. That if we are, and not give up. Some things may be, favorable, some things are not favorable. But if again, so that brings to that analogy of the tree, where if the roots are strong, if the trunk is strong, then only the tree can give something to others. If they are only weak and shaky, then we can't do anything. So let us pray to the Lord that we become determined in our devotional life. And despite the challenges, the ups and downs, whatever it may come, because that is the nature of the material world. It is turbulent, it is dukkhalayam. There are going to be miseries, but let's not get shaken by that. Let's be determined to engage in devotional service. With that, I'll close. We have one more session today in the evening regarding Janmashtami, and tomorrow we will see some more aspects of Krishna's birth and how we can celebrate Janmashtami. Thank you all for joining. Granthra Śrīmad Bhagavatam ki, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki, Jai Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.